All right, welcome. In this video, we're going to discuss how you should conduct your mission planning and briefing. This video is going to offer a technique in planning for both of these, and it offers the idea that the way you conduct your briefing should also be how you conduct your mission planning. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our big picture. And then one thing to keep in mind is when I put the letter B, that means I'm discussing the briefing. When I put MP, that means I'm discussing mission planning. So for big picture, when I sit down to brief my crew or my IP, I'm going to tell them what the plan is today, what they should expect. So today, let's say we're going from Columbus to the MOA, out to Jackson, and then back to Columbus. I'd sit down and start with big picture, guys. We're departing Columbus. We're going to go to the MOA, work on some maneuvers. Then we're going to drop into Jackson for some VFR patterns and an instrument approach. And then at our timeline, we're going to depart and return back to Columbus. Again, that's big picture. That gets everybody on the same page as far as what we're doing today. Now for the mission planning portion here, I've developed my big picture, right? Things I want to consider as I'm building my profile are 3-ride continuity, so if I haven't seen an item in 3 rides, can I get that item on this profile? Maybe your North Flow at Jackson, which I'm pretty sure they only have a VOR or an RNAV, and if I need an ILS or localizer, maybe going to Jackson's not the best option, and maybe I want to look at a different drop-in base. Next thing, are there any special syllabus requirements that I need? Do I need an ASR? Do I need a certain type of landing, like a 10-flap full stop landing? Who knows, whatever. Can the special syllabus requirement be fulfilled in the profile that I'm planning? And lastly, I know we all hate talking about it, but it's the name of the game, MIF items. Are there any items that I need to clean up from the previous sortie? Can I get those items accomplished on the profile that I'm building? Now, if any one of these are required and I can't get it on that profile, well, I need to go back and develop a new profile, change my big picture. So again, during the briefing, I'm sitting down, I'm telling the crew or my IP, hey, this is the big picture, this is what I'm planning for us today. That gets everybody on the same page. For the mission planning portion, what do I want to do big picture? Okay, well, I want to go to the MOA, I want to go to a drop-in base, and I want to return to Columbus. Now I need to check off all these 3 things to make sure that I can accomplish all of them or I meet the requirements necessary. Next item we're going to talk about, showstoppers. So for the briefing, what I want to consider with showstoppers are these items are out to get us today. I want to brief certain aspects of the sortie or certain portions of the sortie that are deemed very, very important, because if we don't consider them or if we don't plan accordingly, we will not be able to accomplish the mission. So for my mission planning portion, can I get the profile I need? So this will not include every aspect that you need to plan for, but this should hit the highlights. As we're mission planning, we need to look for our showstoppers. And the showstoppers are going to range from a wide variety of things, whether it be weather, NOTAMs, birds, takeoff and landing data, or you're told, TFRs. I'm going to look in my IFR SUP at the airfield I'm going to. And this is going to talk to me about tower hours, LDAs, ASDAs, TORA, TOTA, and the ones we consider. We're going to talk about ORM. And then finally, again, not inclusive, but we want to talk about our timeline and any fuel consideration. So again, looking at the showstoppers for my briefing, I'm thinking, man, guys, I'm telling my crew, these are the items that are trying to get out or trying to get us today, and these are the ones that are going to stop us from making our profile happen. I've planned for them and I've mitigated them as such. And then we would go into the briefing. For the mission planning portion, this is where you're going to make your money. This is where I'm going to determine, can I get the profile I need? So I need to research and update my profile based off of what's out there. So first, weather. Do I have the appropriate weather today? Can I get single engine stuff today? Can I get my low level today? Do I have a VFR pattern? Are the winds going to be out of limits? So on and so forth. There's so many things to consider with weather. NOTAMs, I'm going to look at airspace NOTAMs. Are there any restricted areas that are active that are planned in my route of flight? Are any of the MOAs open? Are they closed? Can I file a little more directly to save some more time? Do the airfields have any NOTAMs? Are the runways closed? Are there approach amendments? So on and so forth. I need to review my NOTAMs that are going to tell me what's going on in my profile. Birds, I'm going to review the birds on the AHAS and BAM. Are there birds severe at the airfield? Do I need to mitigate by those? Do I need to call the tower? Should I look at flying somewhere else where the birds aren't projected to be bad? Takeoff and landing data based on my conditions today. Can I perform an initial takeoff? Can I do my touch and goes based on the runway requirements? Are there any climb out considerations? So on and so forth. TFRs, are there any temporary flight restrictions that are in my route of flight that I need to mitigate or fly around, or that are going to stop me from accomplishing my profile? The IFR SUP, that's going to tell me about my airfield that I'm planning to. Are the tower hours, or is it going to be closed when I'm planning to fly there? The runways, if there's a displaced threshold or something like that, is that going to have enough runway for me to do touch and goes or a full stop, what have you? ORM, considering all these things above, what's my operational risk management looking like? Do I have a lot of points? Should I plan another profile that lowers my ORM? Is there too much risk involved here? Should I try to find something that's a little more safe? And then finally, timeline. All these things considered after I run my fuel plan, is the timeline appropriate for my average sortie duration? Do I have enough fuel to get back to my home station? And if I have an alternate, do I have enough gas for that alternate? Or again, do I need to alter my profile? These are the things that I'm going to be looking for during my mission planning. These are the showstoppers that are out there that I need to mitigate and understand before I go to my brief. And if any of these aren't allowing me to do my profile, I either need to change my profile or I need to figure out, hey, is it a good idea to fly today? Early on in your phase, you may or may not be able to make that decision. That's a conversation you definitely need to have with your instructor, and they can give you techniques on how to mitigate these options. But overall, I need to figure out, can I get my profile done today? And are any of these showstoppers going to stop me from accomplishing that? So, like we've said, first we've sat down, we've briefed our big picture, then we've briefed our showstoppers, the big ticket items. Next, for the briefing, we're going to go to our, you'll hear this a lot, our chalk to chalk. And essentially, this is just telling me where I'm moving my aircraft from chalks to takeoff, to en route, to landing, back to the chalks to stop. We're going to start with our taxi plan. And then we're going to move to our departure. We're going to discuss any departure procedures, any SIDs, so on and so forth. Then we're going to get in our en route. And here think low to high. So first I'm going to work on my taxi plan via the airport diagram. Then I'm going to work on my departure page if there's one for a SID or something like that. Then I'm going to go to my low chart. And as I fly higher, maybe my high chart. And as I descend, maybe I'm doing a VFR leg or a low level. Then maybe I want to get back to my low chart or into a VFR chart or in my low level chart. So I'm kind of going from low to high. And then as I go into my out base or what have you, I'm going to brief my out base. And here I'm going to talk about any approaches that I may do. And then that's supposed to be approaches and then plural S because maybe you're doing multiple or maybe you're just doing one. And then so I'm briefing my out base, I'm briefing my approaches, and then I'm going to go to en route. Maybe I'm going to home or my out base for the full stop on an out and back. And same concept, I'm going to brief any charts that are applicable for my en route. And finally, where am I full stopping? I'm going to talk about the arrival, I'm going to talk about the approach into my full stop base, and then I'm going to talk about my taxi plan. for shutdown. So again, it kind of just, it's mirrored image. We go from taxi plan to taxi plan, and in between, we're talking about our departure, our en route, our drop-in base, or maybe it's a low level, or maybe it's a VFR leg, or maybe it's the MOA even. So we'll have that in here to consider. And then we're going to talk about our en route from those places to our full stop base or back home to home station. That overall is going to give me my chalk to chalk. This is my skeleton, or this is my profile that I'm planning in detail. And finally, the last thing we want to talk about are white pages. Well, before we get into this one, let's go back here. So mission planning and briefing should be about the same as far as planning, and then as far as the brief. What I brief, I'm going to brief my crew and my instructor, the profile that I'm planning today from a mission planning. I'm going to go through each one of these in detail to make sure that this can logically happen. And as I'm planning for the entire sortie, there's two things I need to consider: time and fuel. As I'm briefing, I should continuously update my time and fuel and update the crew on what that is through each portion of the profile. As the mission plan goes on, I need to make sure that my time and fuel are appropriate. Now, normally we're never really in the air, knock on wood, for more than 2 or 3 hours, and the amount of gas we have in the T1 allows us to be in the air for even longer. So we're normally going to be limited by time in, I would say, about 70 to 80% of the cases. So I want to make sure that my time is appropriate for my average sortie duration. Times you may be fuel limited are a 2-student sortie, and maybe you need an alternate coming back to your home station. So you need to make sure that you're on your Joker and Bingo fuels at each crunch point or at each profile change. So as I'm planning, I need to make sure that I'm on my time and fuel, and those are consistently being updated and checked as I run through my profile. And lastly, for the white pages, consider your white pages as your cleanup items or as a last resort filter. For the briefing portion, let me divide this up a little bit. For the briefing portion, as I've briefed my big picture, as I've briefed my showstoppers, as I've briefed my profile, I now want to brief my white pages. The white pages should be pretty efficient and pretty thorough, and I'm telling the crew everything here is as briefed, and I'm using the white pages as a filter to catch anything that I may have missed. Maybe I never established that Bingo fuel leaving the outbase to home station, and here the white pages are going to help me determine that and catch that. The white pages should not be the bulk of your briefing. The bulk of your briefing should probably be the showstoppers and your chalk to chalk, with the white pages being minimal time at the end, efficient and thorough, but not the majority of your brief. You just want the white pages there to kind of back you up in case you did miss anything. For mission planning, go through your white pages as a technique about 15 minutes prior to brief. And why I say go through your white pages before or about 15 minutes prior to your brief is that this is my last chance with time to spare to catch anything that I may have missed and then go grab that product. Let's say 15 minutes prior to my brief, I'm all done with my mission planning and I go through my white pages. Yep, NOTAM's briefed. Yep, ooh, told. I didn't get told at the outbase. I still have 15 minutes to grab that told for the outbase prior to my brief. So it gives me a little bit of slop to work at anything. When you go through your white pages in the briefing portion, nothing should be new and there should not be anything that catches you off guard. You should have hit this in the mission planning phase. So to recap here, we've got 4 things that we want to consider: big picture, showstoppers, chalk to chalk, and your white pages. How you mission plan and how you brief should be fairly similar. Go through your big picture in the briefing. Tell the crew what we're doing today. For mission planning, build your profile based on those 3 items that we talked about and make sure you can accomplish the profile efficiently. Next, showstoppers. In the briefing, tell the crew what's out there today and if there's any important items that they need to consider as they're flying. During the mission planning portion, you want to check all of these to make sure you can get the profile done. chalk to chalk. Make sure your entire profile is thought out in depth, considering all these showstoppers that we talked about, and make sure that the profile can be accomplished. For the briefing, you're just telling the crew how we're getting from point A to point B to point C, back to point A, or to the outbase, or what have you. And the entire time, as I'm mission planning here, I'm considering time and fuel and making sure that I'm up to date and good on both of those. And finally, down to the white pages. This will be the last portion in the briefing that we cover. This is going to be your last minute catch to make sure you didn't miss anything. And for the mission planning portion, review the white pages prior to your brief. That way, you don't get caught off guard by anything and you won't miss anything. So in general, this is just one technique that's pretty widely accepted by most instructors in how you conduct your briefing and thus how you conduct your mission planning.